Yeah, that's fine. Nice.
Yeah, I feel like yeah, because I don't think they're going down.
Okay, walk out of there.
Sure. Okay.
What? Can you get out of those? I can. Okay, so walk back in. Use this.
So Aaron, are we ready? All right. So coming to you live with our new televised production of Stone Soup. I want to thank you all for being here. I'm going to invite you to take a breath and rise in body and spirit and voice as you feel moved and join in our opening hymn today. It's number 349. We gather together. If you're here on Zoom, the words will be on screen. Otherwise, play hymnal. All right. So you all need no permission to be seated. And welcome. I'm the Reverend Elizabeth Mount, the pastor here at the First UU Church of Indiana. I'm so glad to be here with you all. On behalf of the entire congregation, thank you for being here. Whether you're here almost every Sunday, or this is your first time in the sanctuary, or maybe your first time in a while, we are so glad to have you. And if you're joining us on Zoom or YouTube, thank you for coming from a distance and making that effort as well. If you are joining us for the first time, we invite you to fill out a blue visitors sheet at the welcome table in front, and we'll make sure that you're personally welcomed and added to our weekly newsletter mailing list. If you're joining us online and it's for the first time, if you send an email to office@firstuu-indianapa.org, you can join our newsletter mailing list that way as well. On Zoom, you'll see a chat button below the video screen. Please feel welcome to use that feature during our greetings, passing the peace, our chalice lighting, and for joys and concerns during the service. We'll cue you on that. The First Unitarian Universalist Church of Indiana, Pennsylvania is a member congregation of the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations. So we're self-governing congregations united in a web of mutuality that creates our denomination. We have no creed, no doctrine, and yet we teach that all individuals have the right and responsibility to discern and follow their own spiritual paths, and we come together to support and assist each other on our journeys and to build the beloved community together as a people of action. I invite you to stay after the service to greet one another and rejoice in our mutual presence. We will open up the microphones on Zoom as well for coffee hours. Folks here in person, you're very welcome to greet those joining us electronically by heading to the back so you can see them on camera as well at that time. And finally, you should know that as of now, having been doing our pledge campaign for just 2 weeks, we have raised approximately 70% of our needed donations for the coming year. Only 40%, however, of our pledge units have pledged. So if you're one of those that has been considering, this is your moment, because now that there are fewer of you to find, we're going to be reaching out, having some conversations. So today is a whole church worship, and I want to just say a final thank you before we begin to our children and youth who have volunteered their time, their energy, and their efforts to create today's worship experience. I invite you to take a gentle breath and settle yourselves in a spirit of worship.
It had been a cold, lean winter in the village. Winter had lasted longer than usual, and the stores of the food had been carefully gathered after the fall harvest. They were now nearly gone.
In fact, the villagers and farmers in the valley were growing fearful. Spring had broken the back of winter, but it would be weeks before the tender green shoots of new plants would come up through the rich soil of their gardens. It would be weeks before plump fish returned to nearby rivers.
Suddenly, through the morning mist, the villagers noticed two figures in the distance. Two people were walking on the road straight towards their village. Who could it be? Who's going to visit the village? And what do they want? Let us light our chalice flame. On Zoom, you may type "the flame is lit," and then where you are joining us from in the chat bar. Our religious exploration classes have some hand gestures for the chalice lighting, which they will show you as we speak our chalice lighting together.
We are Unitarian Universalists with minds that think, hearts that love, and hands that are ready to serve.
While we were beginning our worship service, the villagers were still starting down the road, watching for the two strangers approach. Would they be friendly? Would they be dangerous?
What reason could they have for visiting their village, especially during the lean days of spring? Questions whirled through their villagers' minds. As the strangers entered the village, an elder stepped forward to greet them.
Good morning, and peace to you. Who passes this way?
Greetings and peace to you, friend. We are simple travelers on a long journey.
We seek nothing but friendly people, so we must rest our feet for a day, share some stories and a meal, and sleep among friends tonight before continuing on our way.
You come in peace and are in need of rest. We are a humble village, but a kind and friendly one. And we would be welcome to hear stories and news you bring in from far away. But we have one fire to keep you safe and comfortable as you sleep. But a meal, you say. You want us to share a meal. Do you bring this meal with you?
We bring stories and news.
And some lovely stones and seashells I picked up along the way.
Even those silly seashells, even those silly stones you just had to pick up. We bring important news from cities on the other side of the mountain. We bring stories of intrigue and suspense from those who have fought dragons and lived to tell the tale. We bring the juiciest gossip of the king's new consort. But you do not, I beg your understanding, bring a meal.
Unless they want to chew on my seashell, but I wouldn't recommend it.
We're eager to hear your stories, my friends, and your news. I'm particularly interested in hear about the king's new consort. Our offer of fire and friendship still stands. You may join us for this day and night, but we beg your understanding. This has been a hard winter, and we have very little food to get us through the growing season. There's barely enough food for ourselves, so we can't provide anything else.
Thank you, Fred. We understand and appreciate taking civil sanctuary with you this day and tonight.
Drat, I'm hungry. What are you gonna do? How old is you?
We'll think of something. Just please stop with the stones and seashells. I'm tired of hearing it.
Oh, what hardship. Everyone's hungry, but no one seems able to share food. As we let the strangers and villagers find their way to the village, let's sing together about a different kind of sharing. So please join me in singing our hymn, When I Am Frightened. It's number 1012 in your field hymn.
The two strangers were happy to enter the village. They found a beautiful glade of trees where they could be comfortable. As they settled in, their growling stomachs reminded them that while they'd met with good fortune in this village, it wasn't outstanding fortune.
The villagers seemed hungry or stingy, or both. It was hard to tell. What was clear was that the villagers wouldn't be offering any food to the strangers anytime soon.
I'm hungry.
So am I, friend.
I'm so hungry, I can't stop thinking about roast cakes. From the fire.
Oh, no, let's not speak of food. You're just making me hungrier.
That's what I like to eat right now. A big steaming stack of pumpkin berries and a wildflower honey on top.
What did I just say?
And then I like to eat a platter of succulent grilled fish with roasted vegetables and sea salt.
Am I talking to myself? Please stop.
Fish with potatoes, little roasted potatoes, crispy little salty potatoes.
If you don't stop, I'm going to leave you, Crest, and find somewhere else to sit. I am. See if I don't.
To tell you the truth, I'd settle for a nice hot bowl of soup. Too bad, all we have are these stones. You're right, it was silly to pick them up. You can't make soup out of stones. No.
That's it. First you want to stop talking about seashells and stones, and now you want to stop talking food talk. Stone soup, stone soup. It's driving me crazy. Stone soup, stone soup, stone soup, stone soup. Hey, wait a minute. Hey.
What, did you forget to tell me that you actually have some real pizza?
I have an idea. Will you please show me one of your prettiest stones?
Now you're just in my stones?
How would you like to make a little magic with this stone? I think it could help us make a very nice meal.
I can't imagine how, but I'm all ears. Tell me what you have in mind.
And now let us take an opportunity to share what's on our minds and hearts as well. At this time, during our centering music, if you have joys or sorrows you would like spoken aloud in our pastoral prayer, please write them on a note card and place them in the basket. If you are joining us on Zoom, please write them in the chat and our tech host will put them in the basket for you.
Pardon me, friend, but you have a word clock.
A cooking pot, why would you want that? If it's a bath you want, the river right around that bit. The water's pretty cold right now, but
A cooking pot is what we want, and cooking is what we're going to use it for. You see, we just remembered that some stoves that my companions are carrying, well, they're of the magic variety, you see, and we want to thank your village for your hospitality by making stone soup.
Stone soup, I've never heard of it. It doesn't sound very appetizing.
But it is. Stone soup is appetizing and delectable. And it's very simple to make. All you need is the red stone, which we have, and a cooking pot, which we very much will lend us, and some fresh water from your well, which shouldn't be a problem. And finally, a small fire in which to cook, which is already before us.
And so it was. Curious, hungry, and eager to be of assistance, the villagers helped the two strangers fill the pot with fresh water and then hoisted the pot over the cooking fire. And as they did, the villagers whispered to one another, "Stone soup? Have you ever heard of such a thing? What can this be? How?"
Thank you, friends. Now let me add the magic stone, and our stone soup shall be underway.
Not yet, friend, not yet. Like any soup, stone soup takes a while to prepare. It will be ready to eat by and by.
And so the stone soup began to simmer, and the villagers stood around watching the strangers, more curious than ever, but also more hungry than ever. They decided that they were going to be waiting a while, so they might as well make friends, and they began to offer another a sign of peace.
We invite you to pass the sign of peace with one another, and especially with anyone you haven't met before or haven't seen recently.
From there.
Oh, there.
Yeah. I'll work on it.
Sorry. As the two strangers began brewing their stone soup, the hungry villagers looked on, and so the magic began.
That's right. I mean, yes, both of us have made stone soup many, many times. Help me out here, please.
Oh, yes, many times. Although the best, she probably won't be quite as good as the ones the last time we made it. Remember that?
Oh, yes. Nothing could be delicious as that soup. It tastes as though the angels themselves had made it.
Heavenly, you might be able to make this sacred stone soup as delicious as that one. If only.
If only.
What? Only what?
Probably we had an onion or two, and we could add some onions. This stone soup would tempt the gods themselves to come down from heaven to eat among us.
I might be able to help with that. I have some onions in my cellar. I was saving them for, well, it doesn't matter. Would you like those for the soup?
Of course, thank you.
Ah, yes, now it is becoming sublime stone soup, sort of.
You certainly would. A few carrots are out of the question. You know, they make our stone soup extremely sublime.
Actually, I still have a few carrots left in my cellar. May I give them to you for soup?
Oh, yes, you may add your carrots.
Thank you for sharing, friend. Now our stone soup is on its way to being superbly satisfying.
Excuse me, Prince.
Yes.
Excuse me, Prince.
Yes, my good friend?
I need you not to interfere with your magical soup, but
Speak up, friend. What is it?
is there any chance that your stone soup would benefit some of you there?
Certainly.
Superb, sublime.
One by one, the shy villagers became bolder, stepping forward to reveal that they had small treasures in their cellars and cold stores. A child was sent forward by his parents with a small cabbage.
A man preferred a handful of beans, while another villager supplied a second handful of beans. Yet another villager stepped out to the pot of bubbling soup with a small bowl of barley.
Anybody who has something to contribute?
Yes, every time someone brought forward a small contribution to the soup, I think there's many villagers that have some contributions to add to our big pot. The strangers gratefully accepted it and stirred it into the soup pot. Well,
Sarah, do you need help getting the potatoes out of your pocket?
There was one exception, however.
Anchovies, no, ick.
no anchovies.
But my companion means is we couldn't possibly accept such a generous donation. But thank you anyway. Perhaps an appetizer.
And so the soup pot, now filled with an assortment of vegetables and grains and beans, began to release its tantalizing aroma throughout the village. Everyone's mouth was watering and stomach growling to think of eating such a fine meal. The stone soup was nearly complete, and the villagers' hope and gratitude began to crowd out thoughts of hunger.
In the village, people's hearts had turned away from their worry and fears to thoughts of abundance and generosity. Here at the First UU Church of Indiana, we think of the generosity as well, as we share the plate by giving a portion of every week's donations to an organization outside of the church. This is part of our congregation's mission to promote compassionate and responsible thought and action in the world. By consistently sharing with our own neighbors, so when you give this morning, know that you are making an impact in the wider community through our shared giving. This month, our Share the Plate recipient is the NAACP of Indiana County. Membership and giving to the NAACP is an opportunity to give back to an organization that has done much to change this county for the betterment of people of color, women, and disenfranchised. The NAACP is engaged in improving the political, educational, and social and economic status of minority groups, eliminating racial prejudices, keeping the public aware of the adverse effects of racial discrimination, and taking all lawful actions to eliminate such discrimination. As part of our institutional commitment to anti-racism, we share the plate today and continue working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community together. Please give generously as you are able to the work of this church. Within and beyond our walls, as we share and sing our offering hymn, Blessed Be the Gifts, by Dave and Laura Ferguson. The music can be found as an insert in your order of service.
Oh, in your grade.
Ah, okay.
In your gray hymnal.
Sorry. Thank you. All of these donations are gratefully received. And before we join the villagers again in their feast, let us pause for a moment and find our reasons for hope and gratitude. Let us bring our cares also to this space. And let us savor this moment in the company we share. Let us take time now. If you would like to come up to light a candle of joy or sorrow for the gifts or burdens of our lives, which we are grateful to be able to bring to this gathered community to lighten our burdens and increase our joys. So I invite you to come forward as you wish to light a candle or place a stone in the silent sacred space. Our pattern is going to be a little different than it usually is. So I just want to take a moment to say you're going to come this way, that way, and then back to your seats.
Sorry. Yeah, we're on pace. And also, I'm like, Mom, that could have been a text message to me. Yes. Lynn's birthday, and I was like, wait, there's 2 birthdays. Sorry. Oh, at the end. Yeah, there's just some prep. So now, let us join hearts and minds together in a spirit of prayer. Spirit of life and of love. Too often, when we see someone in need, our hearts turn to stone. Too often, people who cross paths with us move toward indifference or irritation, or become invisible because of the burdens that we carry. This pause in our service, this reminder of all it takes to build a nourishing setting for us. This is our space to uplift what is holy and sacred in community. So today, let us hold so much room for gratitude. From Marty in Colorado, gratitude that Virginia, my own grandmother, is eating meals again with her fellow residents after a negative COVID test. Gratitude from the Poole and Smith family. So thankful to have Uncle Tom visiting this week, spending the holiday with him and introducing him to, as the Poole and Smith family say, our awesome community. So gratitude for those kind words as well. And from Tina Purdue, a joy in spending Thanksgiving with family in St. Louis coming up. Don and Faye had the joy and the privilege of attending the premiere of Utica, The Last Refuge, and going to the center in Utica, New York. It has processed 17,000 refugees since 1979. And they were able to meet and speak with many refugees who now call Utica home. And in continuation of that joy, we are going to be forming a refugee and international center in the community in the Indiana borough on the lower level of the Frick building, which is behind the Coney downtown. You can see Dawn or Faye if you would like more information about this. This community has a history of work with families who are refugees, and this will be such a wonderful opportunity to continue that work and those relationships. Yet more gratitudes. Rowan is a year old today. Yay! And Jonas Vick is a little more than a year old and probably embarrassed that his mom reminded me. So for so many gratitudes and blessings and joys in our lives, let us be truly grateful. And let us also hold in care those who are struggling or need support. Pauline Sims asks that you hold Glenn, her husband, in your thoughts and prayers. He continues to cope with heart-related issues. And Kyle notes the need for support and friends, as sometime soon, Kyle will be sharing information with family and friends that may be difficult. that might not be accepted. So let us hold Kyle in extra love and care along with Kyle's family. And let us as well hold carefully, tenderly, and closely the burdens of injustice, anger, rage, sorrow, numbness in the face of the verdict out of Kenosha, which made it clear there is still so far to go in dismantling white supremacy and creating a world in which justice and peace have room to flourish. And let us also this weekend uplift names and mourn the lives lost of transgender people. We grieve as this year's Transgender Day of Remembrance was honored on Friday. 47 people, mostly trans women, died of violence this year, motivated by gender. We offer our grief and our commitment to change our world so that it is not so dangerous to live a life with a gender written on your soul that does not match your body's outward appearance. So as we remember and grieve, let us also bring to our hearts courage to foster a changed society. This week, or even this day, we will surely encounter someone or something that causes our hearts to turn to stone, causes us to fear or shrink away or be stingy. But when that happens, Spirit of love, may we remember all of the gifts we are given, the greatest of which, as always, is love. May our hearts open not just to those who are close to us, but to all people and all beings that we encounter. Let our judgments turn to forgiveness. May our irritation give way to patience. Let us live out our belief in compassion and love. And so may we find peace together. Blessed be, and amen. And now, in affirmation of that love, here in our space, that love that we are returning to in our Stone Soup story, let us join in singing Come, Come, Whoever You Are. If you need words and music, it's number 188 in our gray hymnal. It's a short piece, so we'll go around a few times. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. Come, yet again, come. Come, come, whoever you are. Enter, come, whoever you are. Wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come. Come. But if you pay attention, I think we find that we will experience these moments of magic, moments of senseless grace, a lot of places, all around the world, all throughout our lives. Sometimes we call it love. Sometimes it's generosity. Mostly, this is a story about community. A friend of mine named Liz James once said that the message of Stone Soup wasn't that people were hard-hearted so much. It's that what they had was small. 2 onions, a few small potatoes. They didn't think it was good enough or even enough to be worth giving. A bit of a metaphor for life. Those small things, we tend to think, oh, my little gift is not worthy. I only have $5 anyway. I mean, I could go over, but I barely have half an hour. That's not really enough to comfort a friend. I don't know if they even want that casserole. It's just noodles and hamburger. We're not being bad or mean, but we are wrong. Pay attention to the world around you. A single loving touch, a caring word, an unexpected smile at just the right moment. Those gifts change a day. Sometimes they change a lifetime. Maybe you have a bit of spice to enliven the day, salt of the earth that deepens flavor, an onion that releases deep tears of grief. An apple to sweeten and refresh. Any food might be a metaphor. All your gifts can become refreshment and nourish the community. Even that trickster stone reminds us that imagination is a necessary ingredient in a healthy community. This is the message of Stone Soup. Today, we will end our worship with an optional communion. So as you exit the worship space after our benediction, feel free to grab some bread, a little cup of cider. You might share them in Grauer Hall, outdoors, wherever you feel good about taking your mask off to share in this ritual of community. It's a little different than we might do in a different year. If you're joining us from far away, now that we're multi-platform as well, you don't need to be here physically to savor the taste of a communal experience. Use any bread or cracker that you might enjoy, and a drink that gives you memories of good times with family and friends. For bread is the coming together of simple seeds from the grasses of earth. When we eat bread, it can remind us. Some of us are Christian and remember Jesus. Some of us come from Jewish roots and remember satyrs of the past. But for all of us, those little seeds, those little grasses are like a community, holding together everything from hillsides to justice movements. Bread reminds us of that basic gift of life and growth that nourishes body and soul. And apple cider, we have chosen for apples, and the story of apples are a gift of our American heritage, a reminder at Thanksgiving time that settlement of this continent by white people, Black people, immigrants, and even before that, by flows of Indigenous people, each wave of settlement has changed the landscape. Apple orchards in place of fields, fields in place of forests. We drink apple cider to remember that whatever our individual heritage, our lives have an impact on the planet. They can literally remake the world. And may ours be one worthy of remembering. Whatever you bring to the feast, may it nourish our bodies and also our spirits. So now, let us hear the final chapter of our Stone Soup story. Before you leave, please, I have two questions for you. Two questions that all of us have been talking about since our meal. The first is this: why did you take such time to do that?
It was you who were the first kind to us. You welcomed us into your village, and you liked my shells. I always appreciate it when people admire my seashell collection.
Our kindness was more than just repaying your kindness, however. It is our way and the way of our people. It is as they write in the Holy Text.
Yes, holy.
In Hebrews it is written, do not neglect to show hospitality to strangers. By this some have became angels by knowing it.
And in Leviticus, it says, if a stranger lives among you, do not do him wrong. Strangers live among you will be like your own people. Love them as you love yourself, because you were once strangers.
Also, we just like soup.
Thank you. Thank you for entering our village of strangers and making us friends.
Strangers waiting to the villagers. How can we raise that? Strangers had
the bend in the road that the elder remembered the second question.
Wait. Where did you get those words?
And as our storytellers return,
which we consume in honor of our own traditions.
we graciously acknowledge the community, the commonality and distinctions we embody. Ritual meal. Therefore, we bless this bread and cider. And we now close with a hymn from the African American tradition. We honor this song as a cry against the injustice of any people who limit their love to those like themselves. This song, "We're Gonna Sit at the Welcome Table," is a song of welcome and a song about the inevitable triumph of love over exclusion and malice and hatred. So I ask that you do this music justice of its tradition. It's number 407 in your gray hymnal. We're gonna sit at the welcome table. We're gonna sit at the welcome table one of these days. Hallelujah. We're gonna sit at the welcome table. Gonna sit at the welcome table one of these days. All kinds of people around that table. All kind of people around that table one of these days. Hallelujah. All kinds of people around that table. Gonna sit at the welcome table one of these days. No fancy style at the welcome table. No fancy style at the welcome table one of these days. Hallelujah. No fancy style at the welcome table. We're gonna sit at the welcome table one of these days.
Let's distinguish our chalice flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. So let us set a welcome table.
May we invite those who are hungry. Think what we might share with those in need. May we each find our ways to be generous in the coming days and find reason to be grateful for what we receive. May you all have a blessed holiday week, however you may celebrate or mourn. Blessed be.
Right. So. So I think this will go better if we can hand to people as they head out rather.
I was just wishing you a good day. Thank you so much. That was hard work today. It's especially hard when there's so many different things going on.
Okay, can you hear me now?
I can.
Okay, let me put my speakers on. All right, are you there?
Yeah, I'm fine. Thank you.
Okay, hold on a second. All right, hello?
Hi.
Hold on a second. For some reason, I can't hear you. So you can hear me?
Yeah, and it shows I'm unmuted, so I don't know.